Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is your instructor Aisha Hussain Khan. Students, in this lecture we'll start with chapter 7 of Pressman book, which focuses on flow and behavioral aspects of requirement model. Requirement modeling strategies. This slide is giving you the recap of strategies we have been following. The first one is structured analysis and the second is object-oriented analysis. In our previous lectures, we have seen many concepts of object-oriented approach, like the definition of classes and the manner in which these classes are basically collaborating and interacting with each other. Now, the structured analysis basically incorporates data and the processes, and these processes further transform the data as a separate entity. These 2 points are giving you the insight of data and processes. Data objects are modeled in a way that defines their attributes and relationships. We are already familiar with these terms of attributes and relationships. Secondly, processes are basically focusing on the transformation of data as data objects flow through the system. It can be an inward flow, or after being processed it can be an outward flow. Flow-oriented modeling. Here is the formal definition for it, that it represents how data objects are transformed as they move through the system. The best example for flow-oriented modeling is data flow diagram. You can also say it as DFT. DFT is a diagrammatic form of showing the data flow through the system. According to authors, this technique is somewhat obsoleted, but still it can give you the great insight into system requirements and flow. And you can say that it is not a formal part of UML, but it can complement UML and other analysis model elements. The flow model. Here is the pictorial representation of flow model. You can see the input stream, the processor and the output. Flow modeling notations. We have 4 important components of a DFT. First is external entity, second is a process, third one data flow and the data store. Now let us see the notations for these components. External entity is being represented by a rectangle. The process is shown by a circle, which is also known as a bubble. Data flow is shown by this directed arrow, and you need to label this arrow by an inward or outward flow. The data store. It basically stores the persistent information in it. It is just like a database, storing the persistent information of external entities. Now one by one we'll look on the definitions of these components. External entity. External entities are basically the primary entities which are used to produce info that is being used by the system, and also it can consume the generated info by the system. So you can say it can act as a producer or a consumer of data. We can see the examples of a person, a device and a sensor as an external entity. This is important to look on that data must always originate somewhere, like it must be produced from some entity, and it must always be sent to something, or it must be consumed by another object. Process. A process is basically a data transformer. It enables basically, or it can change the input to output. You can take an example of compute taxes. You can take an example of determining area or formatting report or displaying graph. These are all the operations or the functionalities which are being expressed here. So we can say that data must always be processed in some way to achieve system function. This is important. We highlight the system function through the process. So here, take an example of data flow. We can see that data flows through a system beginning as input and transformed into output. Like in this case, we are interested in finding out the area of a triangle. So we are taking the base as an input object value and the height as another input object value, and this processor is going to find the area of a triangle by the help of these input values. Data store. To understand data stores, we have taken the example of Safe Home Security System from Pressman book, and in this scenario we are basically finding out the sensor details like sensor type, its location and age. So by having these input values, the lookup sensor data processor will first request the sensor data from the sensor store, and this type of information will pass back to the processor unit and then be enabled on the output face. Because this type of persistent information is placed in a database, so the lookup information will first refer to the data store. Data flow diagramming guidelines. In this slide, we have been provided with some of the guidelines which are required for the construction of DFT. First point is, all icons must be labeled with the meaningful names. Like in this case, you can see that the input value, the processing value and the finally output and data store are all being labeled. The second point is showing you the DFT evolves through a number of levels of detail. Like DFT is presented in a hierarchical fashion. That is, a data flow model has various levels of abstractions. The initial level is known as level 0, and then we have level 1, level 2 and so forth. The third point is showing you that it always begins with a context level diagram. Like the initial level is known as level 0, and we named level 0 diagram as a context diagram. This is another name for level 0 diagram, that it is known as a context diagram. Fourth point is that always show external entities at level 0. Like we have a primary input and output value that should be carefully noted in the context diagram. Like here you can see these are the input and output values which are being clearly noted in the first level. Always label data flow arrows. We have already seen that we are labeling all the data flow arrows. These are the inward data flow arrow and this is outward flow, and they all are labeled. Do not represent procedural logic means that you are not supposed to show the sequential logic as it is being showed in flow charts. Now constructing DFT diagram, we have certain rules that we first do grammatical parse. We have already taken an idea of grammatical parse in our class-based modeling session, that we need to do grammatical parse to find out the noun and noun phrases, and also we can do the grammatical parse to find out the verbs and verbal phrases. So from here we can know about the external entities and the operations basically involved in the system. And to determine external entities, basically we are focusing on grammatical parse to find out the producer and consumers of data. So we are now in the state to draw a level 0 DFT after doing a grammatical parse and finding out the external entities that can be used as a producer or consumer of data. Here is an example of level 0 DFT diagram. See that these are the external entities and these are basically the producing the information, and this external entity is basically consuming this information. See, we are having the processing request for an analog signal to be converted into a digital video signal, and it is being passed to the digital processor, and then finally the requested video signal will be displayed on a monitor. In this diagram, we are not going in the detail of how digital video processor basically process this information. This is what we call a level 0 diagram or a context level diagram. This is the highest level of abstraction. We just mention the input flow and the output flow. We do not go deep in the details of how this process will be enabled. Now coming to the subsequent levels of data flow diagram, one can clearly see that we need to do grammatical parse again in order to refine the context level diagram, or you can say in order to add more functionalities in the context level diagram. Like here you can see that whole of the functionality is being summed up in the single bubble. System functionality is being represented by a single circle or a single bubble indicating all the functionalities inside it. And these are the input values and the output values. So the level 0 diagram just highlight the inputs, outputs and a system as a whole unit. This is the highest level of abstraction, and when you move towards other levels, you need to do the functional decomposition of the central unit. That is, you need to further divide this process into sub-processes, indicating the further precision or indicating the details required to go towards this output value. The third point is claiming that you need to balance the flow to maintain the data flow continuity. Now it is very important that you need to make sure that your inputs and outputs should always be preserved. In the subsequent levels as well, you need to maintain that your inputs and outputs do not suffer from change. They are always preserved. This is the rule of data flow continuity, that moving in subsequent levels will not change your input and output values. So here we can now formulate subsequent levels of DFT after making the context level diagram. The last point is indicating that we use 1:5 expansion ratio. This is an approximate, it can vary slightly. See, the data flow hierarchy is being shown in this figure. X and Y are being supposed to an external entity. A and B represents the inward and outward flow, and the process being subdivided into sub-processes. Here you have divided it in 5 more processes, and see, the data flow continuity rule is still applied on it, that the input and output are being preserved. One more thing to see is that you need to show the values on these directed lines, information flow. These should all be labeled with the precise values. So we are taking examples of DFT from Pressman book of safe home security system. This is level 0 diagram, or you can say context level diagram, in which you are showing the system as a single bubble indicating the name of the system, safe home software, and these are the input entities and these are the output external entities. This is the information flow towards the system, and this is the outgoing flow towards the external entities, which are basically consuming these values. And you can say that these are the producers and these are the consumers. So we necessarily show these commands by the values on it, user commands and data. This is the sensor status, which is going to the system, and system is basically then displaying the information to the control panel display, and it is giving you the alarm, and it is showing you the different numbers of telephone tones. So this is the level 0 diagram. Further, in level 2, we know that here, if you can visualize, that user commands can be of several types towards the main system. So you can see that this process is being divided. This process is being divided into further sub-processes. Like from control panel, we need to see that user commands and data that interact with the user, or that can be used to configure the system, or if it is interact with the user, you can see he certainly has to give the password, and the password process enables. Interact with the user can start or stop or deactivation of a system or activation of a system. Further, you can say that the configure system details can be referred to the data store, and this information is being displayed on messages as status, and there is a monitor who is making the sensor status enable. And finally, we have these outputs, which was clearly shown in the previous diagram as well. Control panel, alarm and telephone lines. See, here we have the same output stream and the same input stream as well. So balancing the rule of flow of continuity, and inside it we have divided it in various bubbles. By highlighting the information flow, you need to highlight these information flow that is residing between them. So this is in the continuation of same example that you see level 1 DFT is further decomposed to level 2 DFT diagram. You can see that a monitor sensor can further be divided into its sub-processes like read sensor, assess against setup, format for display, or dial phone. These are all the sub-processes for the monitor sensor. and we have seen that we will divide the bubbles until a single bubble is capable of doing a single job. And the other thing which is important is that we have preserved the input and output values as the same in the subsequent levels. So this is the summary for an entire process. Like first point is showing you that each bubble is refined until it does just one thing. This is very important. And the second point, the expansion ratio decreases as the number of level increases. Like if you keep on increasing in levels, your further decomposition shall be reduced. The third point, most systems require between 3 and 7 levels for an adequate flow model. This is the maximum limit. At most we should reside between these two levels. The last point is showing you that a single data flow item may be expanded as level increases. You can see the example here that the single command is further divided into many more sub-processes.